Great to see all you guys. I hope everybody is safe and healthy as you were the last time we spoke. Really excited to get back. I don't know if I've ever been as excited for a training camp. I didn't sleep a whole lot last night. We had our report day team meeting last night that was really invigorating. And then to get out there on the field, we haven't practiced in 8 months. December 29th. I looked it up, was the last time we had an entire team on the field for a practice. And it was fun, and it was cathartic. It was therapeutic. And I know our guys really, really enjoyed being out there. Those of them that were able to not cramp up and make it through the whole practice. So I did want to thank a number of people and entities, obviously our players, and the remarkable job of tenacity and fortitude to get us here after the last 4 months and some change. Certainly President Hartzell and Chris Delcani, our football staff, coaches and support staff, as well as our athletic department. There's a lot of hands that got us into getting to today, and be very remiss if I didn't thank them. This is complete team effort from the top down at the university, from the athletic department, and all the way down to our players. And then, as I said, I thought today's practice was great. Obviously the first time some of these new coaches have in a true practice setting. We've had walkthroughs galore, if you will, in January, February, beginning of March, and then obviously here in late July. But for a true 2.5 hour practice out there, full speed, there was some bumps in the road in terms of just practice expectations, but our guys are learning on the go. They want to do right. Our players attacked it really, really well with a lot of juice and energy. And then really the only issue we had a few guys cramp, but nothing serious. They all, I think all but one got back in, and that one was just because I think the cramp happened late in practice. So questions?
Go ahead and start with Cedric.
Hey, Tom, this was as unique an off season as anyone has ever been through. What was the tenor of your team when it actually came back to being football and not all the other stuff that we've been reading and writing about in the news?
I thought excellent. I thought our guys handled everything, as a whole, with a ton of maturity. We obviously had some outliers here and there that struggled, but for the most part, our team has handled this very, very maturely. And, they're football players, and they want to play football. And today was a very important step into making that happen in 2020. And, the tenor of them was excitement. And I think some gratitude, really, just to the powers that be for getting us to this place where we can actually jog out on DNS practice fields and have a 2.5 hour practice and feel really, probably for the first time in the last 4 or 5 months, felt normal. And that was, I think, really important for our guys to have a sense of normalcy. Now, it doesn't feel normal having to pull your mask up, or wearing a shield on the bottom of your face mask, or standing 6 feet away from guys. But I think for the most part, our guys are pretty used to that new normal. And this was another step in getting us back to something that feels like it was the way things used to be.
Go ahead, Chris.
Hey, Tom. everybody saw that mom's post from Indiana about her son getting it and having serious side effects and the heart issues and everything. What are you hearing from parents about their concerns about their sons participating in a full contact sport where you can't maintain social distance? And what's your message to them? What's the conversation like back and forth with you and concerned parents?
It hasn't been a ton lately. I got to be honest with you. I think a lot of the questions came early in the quarantine, lockdown, pandemic, whatever you want to call that phase of life we were in there during months of March and April. And then as we inch closer, we've done a great job. Our support staff and our athletic department have done a great job of keeping our parents updated on all of our protocols and precautions and mitigation strategies. And to be honest with you, not a whole lot of questions. And again, because I do think their sons feel as safe as can be in this environment. I don't want to speak for them, but I'm just trying to guess here a little bit as to, the reasons behind it. But it's been really good. Parents have been extremely supportive. Obviously, just like all of us on this call that are parents, you're going to be worried. But when you send your child off to come play at the University of Texas, we tell them and swear to them that we're going to treat their sons like ours. And we're, the proof is in the pudding right now in terms of how we're handling it as a department and as a program. And I think for the most part, to a T or to a person, the parents are pretty comfortable with that.
Go ahead, Brian.
Hey, Tom. You just touched on what I wanted to ask you about, is just sort of the ethical quandaries of all of this. Do you really feel like the players feel good about this, judging from their talks with them? And have you had anybody opt out that didn't feel good about the setup?
Yeah, Brian, I think they feel as good as they can. And I think that's all they expected. I think they knew that, if there was going to be a season, there were going to be some risks that didn't exist in previous years. And all they wanted, again, this is me. I don't ever want to speak for the players. This is me kind of reading between the lines and in my personal conversations with the guys on the team. I think they just wanted assurances that we're going to do our best and have the best in the country as far as strategies and protocols and all of that. And I think they feel comfortable that we're providing that to them. And so do they really feel good? I don't know. But I know they feel good about where we're at and what the University of Texas is providing them in this time in order to attempt to play.
Hey, Tom, how's it going? Just kind of wanted to ask about, over the last few weeks, you've seen players from, I think it's been the Mountain West, Pac-12, and Big Ten, all these statements coming out, making sure that the conferences are taking the proper protocols and making sure they're safe. And a few of the players from the conferences have also come out and asked for, the conferences to address social justice issues, sort of something similar to what you guys did a few months ago. I'm just kind of curious, are you sensing really finally, because it feels like we've talked about it for a while, but a shift where student athletes are really kind of feeling their voice and feeling more powerful than they have and kind of making sure that they're heard? I think there's that shift coming, but do you sense it more than you have at this point?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I think the student athletes are realizing their platform and their voice and trying to use it to the betterment of the game and their sport and their programs, respective to wherever they are in the country, whatever conferences they are, so on and so forth. But as far as our guys though, right now, I think they've really been focused on, the safety and practicing, and we haven't talked a whole lot about the social issues going on that continue to go on in the country. Our guys are pretty laser focused in on practice and getting ready for the season. Not to say that they're ever going to, abandon that ship by any stretch of the imagination, but I think they understand where the priorities of their focus are right now, and but you can do both too, and we've talked to them at length about that.
And I mean, I'm sure obviously you mentioned this a million times, but we've seen a few programs where players are going out to parties and they're coming back with more cases of COVID. A few of them shut down. I mean, I'm sure you've gone over that, but when another story like that comes out, do you like, hey, look, here it is, let me highlight it again. This is as serious as that can be. You can ruin the whole thing.
Oh yeah, we learn from everybody's mistakes, including our own, and there's a lot to learn from right now out there. So our guys, anytime something like that comes up, we send a group text, with a post or a link to the story. We talk about it in team meetings and position meetings. So our guys are very well educated about the missteps of other programs and mistakes that they've made. And, they're definitely committed to not repeating those here at Texas.
Go ahead, Chip.
Tom, what would you say are your top 3 concerns right now, and your top 3 position questions?
Hang on. Isn't there a function on Zoom where you can do like a poll or something like that? Is that what we should do right now? Just do a poll like one. Top 3 concerns. Definitely the health and safety of our team and maintaining this level of diligence in our practice and meetings and preparation. It's one thing to get excited about it and really pay attention to it on day 1. It's another on day 17 when we're still having to, pull your masks up and wear the shields and, a lot of things be affected. So, just making sure that our guys stay motivated to adhere to the guidelines that have been put in front of them. I would say concerns, certainly the installation of the defense and offense. I think, at a full speed, we missed 15 full speed practices in the spring, so we're behind there, but not nearly as behind as we would have been in previous years because of all the walkthrough time that we've had and meeting time that we've had. And then I would say probably, just developing young depth is, something that we've got to make sure that in this year, especially knowing that, I think we figured out, roughly 80 to 90% of your scholarship roster is probably going to see the field at some point this year, and they better be ready. And, we've got to accelerate these learning curves pretty quickly. And then what was your second part that had 3 parts? So really 6 parts.
The position questions, your top 3 position questions.
Who's going to replace the couple O-linemen that have left our program? That'll be an interesting battle, and one there'll be a lot of guys involved in that battle. Linebacker, production and depth. We've got to make sure that position is solidified. And then I think, for good reason, I think our battle at corner is going to be a very interesting one. I think we've got 4 or 5 guys there at corner that are all capable of starting here at Texas. And, it's going to be a heck of a battle throughout training camp.
All right, go ahead.
Tom, you mentioned the face shields, and I was just kind of curious between the individual work and also from the practice as well? Have you been able to get an early read from your guys on how they've adapted and will continue to adapt and adjust to that, to the face shields?
Well, if the question is, would they prefer them or not them, the answer is not them. That's for sure. But I think they certainly prefer the shield as opposed to wearing a mask under their helmet. And so they understand that, you know, this is a problem that is not unique to Texas. This is something that everybody in the country is dealing with. So it's just, it's part of doing business in 2020. And they're going to try like heck to find the most comfortable option for them. Right now, most of our guys, if not all, you know, all of them have the face shield on their helmet. And then, you know, 95% of them have the little pull-up mask for when they want to take their helmet off and then pull the mask up with it. Other guys have chosen to just not take their helmet off at all and just use the shield the entire time. But those guys are definitely in the minority. So they don't like it, and that's okay. There's a lot of stuff about this game that they don't like and we don't like, but it's obviously, you know, it's part of playing football in 2020, and you can't get around it. And they've tried all of the different options out there, and this is the one that they feel is the best for them right now.
Go ahead, Max.
Yeah, Tom, just going off that, what are some more of those kind of strategies and protocols you guys have had to kind of figure out for practices and for position meetings, just to kind of do that safe? I've heard some Big 12 schools are going to do split squad practices and stuff like that. I don't know if that's been a factor for you a little bit.
Yeah, we talked about it, you know, with the contact tracing rules in our region and from our medical professionals, we didn't feel like, you know, a guy, you know, a single positive was going to wipe out, you know, half the team because of contact tracing. So we're not going to do that. Obviously, we've got to maintain our distance and be extremely diligent in mask wearing and you know, facial covering wearing. But, you know, other than that, I think it's at meetings, we're 6 feet apart, masked the entire time. And, you know, we take breaks every, you know, 12 to 15 minutes and just kind of live life that way.
Kirk, go ahead.
Yeah, Tom, will you all huddle up, or do you kind of get rid of huddles?
Well, we hadn't huddled in a long time, so
yeah.
We were ahead of the curve.
Yeah, and I see the SEC is requiring masks on sidelines for those that are not playing. Would you like to see that instituted, you know, nationwide?
I was under the impression that it was. So I don't know if it is or isn't, but I would assume that if it's not a national rule, I would assume that most, if not all, conferences will adopt that. Yeah.
And the last thing, ACC is going to play 11 games, and everybody else seems to be playing 10. Do you worry about an uneven playing field, or does that even enter your thinking?
Not at this point, no. I'm just worried about getting us to game one, and we'll worry about game two after that. And I know there has been talk, you know, amongst us head coaches about what our opinion is for rescheduling games, cancellation of games, postponement of games. What should the criteria be? So we're continuing to talk about that to try to have some kind of standard throughout our conference, so to eliminate the gamesmanship that is a potential pitfall as far as that's concerned. But we haven't come to any consensus there, and you know, we've got time as far as that's concerned. But no, we're kind of in our own, I hate to use the word, but we're in our own little bubble here in the Big 12, and we got to worry about ourselves right now, and we can learn from other conferences certainly, but you know, we've got to do what's best for the 10 members in the Big 12 right now. The way that this thing had, I think back in early June or late May, and there was a sense that there would be some kind of uniformity across the country throughout conferences. And once that option became not real, I think we kind of just said, okay, we've got to make decisions that are best for the membership of our conference and move forward from there.
Anwar, go ahead.
Hey, Coach. You guys are usually the experts at, the physical approach, to the game, getting, gains in the weight room, so on and so forth, right? But there's a psychological aspect that plays into this with the players. I'm kind of curious how you're approaching that. You've had guys who were quarantined for months at home, so, they had to deal with that psychological aspect of it. You have the worries of the COVID that's going on. You have the potential interruptions that could happen. So from a psychological standpoint, how are you guys kind of addressing the bigger mental, concerns and issues that are out there, more so than just my girlfriend and I broke up? It seems to be deeper than that.
It is deeper. Yeah. And, that was a big deal, continues to be for us. I think communication and relationships, you've got to have and continue to build great relationships with our players so that they feel comfortable talking to you about things that they are uncomfortable about. And, we've had all sorts of, medical professionals come on our team meetings and stuff like that to try to educate our players. And, I've had personally a ton of one-on-one meetings with our guys to just listen. I think that's probably the biggest thing, is listen. None of us, raise your hand on this call if you've been through a global pandemic before that's lasted 6 months. Nobody has, right? So we're all kind of going through this for the first time together. And I think the kids are very cognizant of that, and they don't hold us to this standard that is unreachable in terms of us having all the answers. We're not. We're going to make sure that that we keep them safe and healthy, and then just have deep, meaningful conversations with our guys and give them our best advice. And if we need to pivot off that advice and do something else, we'll do that too. But this is uncharted waters for everybody. And I think our kids understand that. But I do think that our coaches, myself, and our athletic department as a whole is very aware of the mental effects that this can and has had on certain individuals. And we're there with all kinds of support, whether that be from us as coaches to, people that are certified mental health professionals. Our guys have a ton of resources here at the University of Texas, and, some of them maybe more than other years have used them. And our guys seem to be as a whole in a pretty good mental state right now.
Go ahead, Steve.
Hey, Coach. Good to see you. Good to see you, everybody, again. Listen, just wanted to talk to you about how you balance all the new coordinators and new coaches being here with hurrying and getting the information into them, instilling all the stuff you have to instill. And then also, who's been your team leaders who have kind of stepped out in the process over the couple of months you guys have been down, Coach?
We've had multiple staff meetings in terms of discussions about how we do things around here and what our culture is. And again, there are things that are going to show up every day where I've got a sheet of notes that's from a 2-hour practice, an entire sheet of notes that just different things that you see, and okay, this coach is new. He wasn't aware that we do this way or whatever it is. And, but they're all pros. Chris and I have worked together at numerous different stops. So he's pretty aware of the expectations. He's been a head coach, so that part of it. And then Mike, we haven't changed a whole lot offensively. We've kept 2 coaches or 3 coaches on offense. So, those guys have been able to say, hey, we do it this way or that way or this way or that way. But I think early in the pandemic, we had a lot of staff meetings to where we kind of laid in front the overarching theme and culture of our program. And then, but that was done back in January too. These guys were out there in walkthroughs and all that with our players and meeting with them in January and February. So we had to do that in a hurry, post signing day in February. It was a mad dash to get these guys up to speed on just, the expectations and what we believe in here at the University of Texas. And again, this isn't any of them's first job. They're all pros, and most programs operate pretty similarly anyways. And the difference is if it's something that we had forgotten to cover or kind of slipped through the cracks, then we address it immediately and move on. But those instances haven't occurred very often.
Go ahead, Joe.
With the potential of you or any coach possibly having to quarantine this year, 3 years ago before your first season, you said that if you were hit by a bus, Coach Drayton would be in charge. Is that the same case? If you for some reason had to quarantine, would he still be the guy who stepped into your role as head coach for that week?
Yes and no. I mean, I would miss a 2-hour practice and a 2-hour, 3-hour, 4-hour game. I wouldn't be dead, I hope. So I could certainly attend every meeting remotely. I would think my phone would still work and could make a lot of advanced decisions remotely. And then really you're talking about, on the practice field and then on game day. And I think, what we've talked about is certainly Coach Drayton would be the voice along with Chris Ash, certainly for the defense, especially since he's had head coaching experience. But I think it's a different circumstance because, again, it's not like you're going to be incapacitated. You just can't be around people. But your brain still works. You can still make decisions and still communicate with people. So not too concerned about it, but certainly something we plan for.
Hey, Stephen, go ahead.
Coach Herman, Stephen Wagner, I'm a beat writer with the Daily Texan. Given that some of the smaller level conferences and divisions have canceled their seasons and UConn just said that it won't play this season, how confident are you that you'll play a full 10-game season?
I'm just trying to get to practice too, Stephen. And not to be dismissive of your question, I haven't given whether we're going to play 10 games, 9 games, 8 games, 7 games, 6 games. I haven't put a percentage on my confidence level of any of those numbers. So, we're pretty concerned with the immediacy of, just getting through practice 1 and rest and recovery and preparation for practice 2. But I don't know, things tend to change quite a bit in a matter of days or hours as far as this pandemic is concerned. And I expect it'll change a lot more between now and week 10. And we'll kind of just roll with punches.
Go ahead, Jeff.
Hey, Tom, just want to ask real quick, offensively, with the X and the Z receiver, how much will those roles change compared to what they've been through your first few years? And then big picture offensively, when you looked at the body of work and really studied kind of what you didn't like about last season, what were those things and how has Mike Yursich and that group gone about kind of implementing those changes when you haven't had the practice time that ideally you would have liked?
X and Z won't change a whole lot. X will be primarily into the boundary. There'll be a lot of, be some formations where he's to the field, and their job descriptions, though, from what we were doing last year to this year is almost identical. I don't want to say completely, but almost identical. And then, I think our underwhelming 1-loss record kind of overshadowed, the type of season that Sam Ellinger had and Devin Duvernay had and Colin Johnson had, and the improvement that we had in the run game, to have two backs go over 700 yards and the multiple touchdowns that they scored, and to have Sam Ellinger be one of the top 2 or 3 quarterbacks in all of college football in every statistical category returning, I think, that gets overshadowed a lot. And, we play games to win. We don't play them to get stats, but on that side of the football, we produced really well for most of the season, and certainly did at an elite level at quarterback. And so Mike's done a great job of studying, what we did last year well, and making sure that, we don't throw everything out just because he's new. And you always looking to enhance. And, he's brought in that's Vernon's last name. I don't think it's a real word. He has brought some interesting and exciting new tempo ideas to us, a couple new route concepts. But for the most part, to the layperson, I don't know that it's going to look a ton different. I think we'll execute at a higher level. I think the tempo part and the few route concepts, and then Sam's ability and Sam's really taken to Coach Yursich, and I think that's going to be a really fun relationship to watch throughout the season as well.
Maya, did you have a question?
Yes. Hi, Coach. Maya Taylor from the Daily Texan. So one of the big questions going into the season is what fan attendance and everything will look like. Do you think that if we were to move to a format where there weren't fans, that the team would be prepared for that atmosphere?
I think so, yeah. Again, that's not our decision to make, and our guys are excited about playing this year, and I think they're going to be excited about playing regardless of how many fans are in the stands, based on, what they've had to go through these last few months. But, again, these are all things that I know content is at a premium right now for your guys' business, but, these big picture things are things we really don't spend a whole lot of time thinking about, fans and, are we going to get 10 games in, or, we're very singularly focused and trying like heck to make sure that tomorrow's practice is better than today's. And, they'll tell us how many fans are going to be there at some point, I'm sure. And we'll say, okay, great. And then we'll go play. And, our guys, regardless of how many fans are allowed in the stadium, they'll be ready and excited to play.
Go ahead, Max.
Tom, I don't expect you to tell us, but do you know when your first game is and who you're playing?
I don't know. I wouldn't tell you if I did, but I'm telling you right now that I don't. Chris does. Is that why you're raising your hand, Chris? You know who we're playing and when?
He's muted.
He's muted. We'll keep it that way.
They're keeping it.
Yeah, I got you. No, I don't, Max.
But do you feel like you have enough preparation time, I suppose, between now and then?
Yeah. I think we'll know something by the end of the weekend, if not first part of next week, and that'll be plenty of time.
Chip, go ahead.
Tom, what when you look at I know you've had some soft tissue injuries. Can you give us an injury update? Who's, limited, who's not, or
yeah, every scholarship player was full today, except for Prince Dorba and Jordan Whittington. They both went through individuals and were held out from any team setting just as a precaution. And, if everything stays on schedule the way that it's going, we think both those guys will be back the very first practice of next week, so Tuesday.
Was there maybe some more soft tissue injuries without having had spring ball or a normal summer?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, and that was our biggest reason for not wanting to move game one to the 29th to get that extra week of training camp in. We felt like the week of running and lifting and walking through was much more important for our guys' health and recovery at that point than trying to cram a few practices in, especially knowing that the season was probably going to be pushed back from a start date standpoint. And, it's paid off. Again, we had some a few weeks ago that had cleared up. And like I said, now we're down to, 2 scholarship guys that are on the mend right now. And, happy about that decision that we made. And, but again, go look at the lockout year in the NFL and it'll tell you all the information you need to know, which I think it was the highest rate of ACLs and Achilles injuries and since they've been charting them in the NFL. And probably I haven't seen a stat on soft tissue injuries, but I would imagine that would be the case for soft tissue injuries too. So, anytime a guy has to spend that long without a strength coach, you're bound to have, and it's 118 guys, you're bound to have a few whose bodies don't react real well to that. And we did, and we're on the other side of it now and feel good about moving forward.
Got time for a couple more. Go ahead, Chris.
Two kind of one clarification question and then another just real question. What's the practice schedule like during, how many days a week? Are you guys going 5 days a week, 6 during right now?
Yeah, so starting next week, a normal week would look like, Sunday practice, off Monday, Tuesday practice, Wednesday full pads. That'll be a banger. Then Thursday the 13th, because we expect that we're going to have an extra week or two to prepare for game one. Even though we could practice that day, we'll slow it down, considerably and really have 2 walkthroughs. So in the 3 hours that we're allowed to practice, we would substitute a walkthrough in its place to save our guys' legs. And then Friday, back into shorts and shoulder pads, Saturday scrimmage, and then repeat the process again. Sunday would be, a very light practice, Monday off, and then wash, rinse, repeat after that.
And then to kind of expand on that, and with what Max was asking about, you don't know who your first opponent is going to be. You don't know when it's going to be necessarily. How difficult does that make trying to manage a normal training camp where you knew you had X amount of weeks and you knew you had to start preparing for this opponent on this day? How flexible do you have to be with so many unknowns about just the start of the season and who you're going to play when you're going to play them right now during the start of training camp?
Flexibility is that should go in there with mitigation strategies, bubbles, and pandemic as words of the year for 2020. I told our coaches very early when this thing first started that things are changing so fast and so often that if we plan anything beyond a 2 to 3 week stretch, we're crazy. We're wasting brain cells. And so we got a couple weeks planned out, and knowing that we're going to get a lot of information dropped on us here in the next, 5 to 7 days in terms of, we still don't know, again, what's our rescheduling policy? What's the percentage of players that need to be unavailable for you to have a no contest? Who are we playing? When are we playing them? How many fans are going to be? I mean, there's so much information that still we don't know that, again, we're just trying to take it in kind of 2-week chunks and adapt as we go. So, yeah, we're extremely flexible, and that's kind of been the standard operating procedure here these last few months.
Got time for 2 last ones, Brian and then Jeff.
Tom, can't let you go without a hardcore football question. What did you think about your first look at Joe Osai at the Jack? And then tell us about Bijan Robinson with his sort of debut.
Well, it certainly wasn't our first look at Joseph, lining up outside of an offensive tackle. So I think we all kind of knew what he was capable of doing on the line of scrimmage. And again, in no pads, it's hard to gauge, but I can tell you that's, in my expert opinion, as well as our entire staff. I mean, that's a fish to water kind of situation there. Joe is comfortable around there. He's explosive. I think he's 255 pounds now. So that's where he belongs. And we're excited to watch him this year. And Bijan Robinson, again, not in shoulder pads, so getting hit and blocking people and all that stuff, you can't tell, but he's what they're supposed to look like. He's 18 going on 24 in terms of the maturity that he has, not only mentally, but physically. I mean, you look at his body and it's again, it looks like a kid that's been through a Yancey McKnight, off season for a good 3 or 4 years. And this is an 18-year-old kid just showing up from Tucson, Arizona. And he's everything you want. And again, now he's got to go prove it in pads. Walkthroughs and shorts and helmet practices are one thing. You go out there and you got to go run inside zone versus Taquan Graham and Keandre Coburn and Joseph Osai and Juju Mitchell and those guys. That's a whole nother animal. And but I'm almost positive he's going to be up for that task and excited about it.
Last one, Jeff.
Tom, with the way your organization has recruited and developed offensive and defensive linemen, I know you'll know a lot more once you get in the pads, but just watching your big guys run around, are you starting to look like, on both lines of scrimmage, what you envision the championship caliber, line of scrimmage team should look like, just in terms of what the bodies look like?
I think so. I mean, we've all got very short memories in this business. Wise man recently reminded me that, this is a what have you done for me lately business. But, our first 2 years here, we coached the defensive lineman of the year in the Big 12, 2 different people. We developed a potential first round offensive tackle and, a 4-year starter and Derek Kerstetter in the offensive line. And so I think we've had some success. We knew we had to continue to get better there. And, I just look at the 2 defensive linemen we brought in and if you want to count Prince too, but I'm talking about the 2 big guys. And those are, where you stand next to Vernon Broughton and Alfred Collins, whoa. I mean, whoa. Those are big, strong humans. And, so they don't know whether the ball is pumped or stuffed right now, and that's okay. But they're going to figure it out, and it's going to be fun to watch. And you combine those young guys with Devondre Sweat and Keandre Coburn and Taquan Graham, Daniel Carson, Myron Warren. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. Moro Ojimo, Marquez Bimage, you know, just really excited. And, you know, Isaiah Hookfin as a redshirt freshman, you know, has turned some heads on the offensive line, as well as, you know, Christian Jones and Tyler Johnson. And so, yeah, I appreciate the question, because we are slowly but surely starting to look more and more like what we had envisioned. But also we don't forget, you know, where we've come from too, and the work that we've done at those two positions leading up to this season too.